This is a moment of fear and uncertainty. This is a moment of concern.
The province declares a state of emergency as another out-of-control wildfire threatens the city of Flin Flon, with thousands now forced from their homes in northern Manitoba. Thank you for being with us. It is going to be a very long night for many in our province as wildfires inch closer to several communities. The entire city of Flin Flon was ordered out this afternoon, with people told to be on the road by midnight. Residents told to head down Highway 10 toward the Paw and to get to Winnipeg from there if they can. Josh Crabb brings us the latest.
A harrowing escape caught on camera. These crews were fighting a fire that spread from Saskatchewan within 2 kilometers of the northern Manitoba city of Flin Flon. More than 5,000 people who live there were ordered to leave before midnight Thursday. Elseda Alerta packed up essentials, her family and pets, and started heading to Winnipeg.
It's just absolutely smoky out here. There's lineups getting out of town.
This is one of 22 active fires in Manitoba. A province-wide state of emergency has been declared to help with the evacuation of multiple communities and First Nations.
All told, we're looking at about 17,000 people in northern communities that are being evacuated.
Premier Wabkanu says Prime Minister Mark Carney has offered federal support. Manitoba asked for help from the Canadian Armed Forces, moving people from remote places where highway and airport access has been cut off.
This is the largest evacuation Manitoba will have seen in most people's living memory.
The province is working with officials in Winnipeg to make room for evacuees in community centres and recreational facilities. Manitoba Keewatanawi Okanagan Grand Chief Garrison Settee speaks for Northern First Nations.
This is a massive undertaking, and I'm proud of the fact that the First Nations are not alone in this fight.
There have been a total of 102 fires so far in 2025. The 20-year average for this time of year is 78.
And this is an abnormal level of fire activity in the province for this time of year.
High temperatures, low humidity, and a lack of precipitation are factors, along with forests filled with material allowing the fires to spread fast. More than 198,000 hectares have burned this year. That's nearly triple the 5-year annual average of more than 70,000 hectares burned.
Manitoba does have the highest fire activity in Canada so far this year, due in part to that prolonged period of warm and dry conditions we have had.
With hot temperatures and no rain in the forecast, there is little relief in sight for crews on the front lines. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The province opened a reception centre this evening, staffed by Provincial Emergency Social Services and the Red Cross for those forced from their homes. It is located at the Billy Mojdienko Arena at 709 Keewatin Street in Winnipeg. It opened at 9 p.m. and will remain open all night long. All evacuees are encouraged to register as soon as possible online at www.redcross.ca/2025 Manitoba Wildfires or by calling 1-800-863-6582. Now, some 17,000 Manitobans have been told to leave their homes because of fires, among them people living in 4 First Nations communities. These include people living in Pimicikamak Cree Nation, Puckatawagan, Marcel Colombe First Nation, along with the community of Sheridan. 2 other First Nations, Norway House First Nation and Easterville Chemawawan Cree Nation, were put under evacuation notice, with people told to prepare in case they had to leave. Manitoba Keewatanawi Okamakanack's Grand Chief said some early evacuees have already been sent to Winnipeg, Brandon and Thompson.
One of the things that is important is that to ensure that we have the spaces here in the city of Winnipeg, and if we need to move the people elsewhere, they have committed to help us to make sure that the people have places to go, and that they have places where they can have the proper resources to be able to look after themselves, and also the daily necessities are also important.
Pimicikamak residents have been ordered to head over to Norway House. That community is prepared to house just under 1,300 people for now. MKO says the airport there cannot be used due to fire. To the latest on the fire burning near Lynn Lake now, that blaze remains out of control just kilometers away from the community. The province says it was last around 7,000 hectares. The CBC's Sanuda Ranawake caught up with some of the evacuees in Thompson.
George Castell took this picture as he was leaving his home in Lynn Lake.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of smoke. Yeah, hazy out there.
Castell arrived here in Thompson Tuesday. He is with over 400 other evacuees from Lynn Lake. The fire there continues to grow. Now over 10,000 hectares, according to the province.
I brought my dog and packed up the kids real good, clothing, everything they needed. Yeah, so basics for a few days, I hope.
Laurel Biggity was on the first bus out of Lynn Lake.
We had to close all the bus windows, everybody, because it was so smoky.
That smoke is now causing a lot of haze in Thompson. Environment Canada issued an air quality statement advising residents to remain indoors or wear masks when outside. Thompson's city manager says plans are in place.
Things are very dry here right now. We have extreme fire conditions here. We've also had a number of grass fires set in the community, whether through carelessness or through ATVs or dirt bikes. So we're in a precarious situation across the entire north.
But there's no sign of help from Mother Nature either.
Pretty much across the north, there's fires jumping up all over the place, and it doesn't look like there's any rain coming in the next few days.
It means Lynn Lake evacuees don't know how long they will be calling this home. Sanuda Ranawake, CBC News, Thompson.
As mentioned, Flin Flon is now being evacuated due to wildfire threat. Firefighting efforts to contain that blaze were halted due to a drone that was flying nearby. That drew sharp criticism from Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew earlier today before the evacuation order was given.
No drones. Like, getting some views on YouTube is not worth it. You got a community of thousands of people who's on the verge of evacuation, and one of the reasons is because we couldn't fly water bombers in the area. And, putting your drone up there and getting a video that you can share is simply not worth it. You have to put the good of the community ahead of your own interests right now. You should probably do so at all times, but especially right now when we're dealing with an emergency situation in many parts of the province. We want to underline the severity of the situation. This is a very, very important time as we look at Flin Flon, a well-known community and a very large community, potentially looking at an evacuation at the same time that many other communities are already there. In typical fire seasons, you would have one region having a challenge at a given time. It would be the east, it would be the north, it would be the west. This year, it's all the regions at the same time. So what can you do if you're just the average person out there? Well, we want you to observe all the fire bans, for sure. If you're in an area threatened by wildfire and an evacuation order does come, we're asking for you to obey that and to cooperate.
To the Whiteshell now, where firefighters have been making progress on the fire burning on the Manitoba-Ontario border, allowing more residents and visitors to return. Brereton, Red Rock, White, Jessica Star and Hunt Lakes will reopen to permanent residents, cottagers and visitors tomorrow morning, while some blocks around Caddy Lake, as well as the west and south shore subdivisions of West Hawk Lake will also be reopened. However, all hiking trails and water routes remain closed. The province says campgrounds in the Whiteshell will welcome campers in a staggered approach, with some opening as early Friday afternoon. All right, well, a lot of this has been dependent on the weather, the shift in winds and the very hot conditions that we've seen throughout the last couple of days in the province. Let's get a first check on our forecast with Colette Kennedy.
Thanks, Riley. Yeah, as you know very well, I mean, so many different things play into this. And in terms of getting any kind of relief on the horizon, little bits in terms of for a few communities with some wind shifts, which I'll go into in more detail a little bit later in the show. And also, obviously, we need some rainfall. That is on the horizon, but we've got several days to go. But the temperatures, the humidity, also so important. And our humidity low and our temperatures building and continuing to build. So that pattern of the heat that pushed into northern parts of the province and has been filtering down to the south. We saw that continuing through the day today. And as we look forward in time, in terms of what's going to be happening with those temperatures here, moving forward towards Thursday, Yes, throughout the prairies, we've got the extreme heat in Alberta, some mid-30s through there into parts of Saskatchewan, but it's pushing eastward and staying eastward. So they get a little reprieve there into Friday, not so much for us into Manitoba. Into Saturday, it expands once again. And then as we go towards Sunday, now here is something to be looking forward to, because cooler air will be coming in behind a front. We're still going to be dealing with it Sunday and into Monday into the southeastern part of the province. However, not only will the temperatures be coming down, but there'll be some rain associated with that too. So again, more on that to come. Overnight tonight, though, 14 degrees, a few clouds. Tomorrow morning, yeah, essentially sunny skies and 16 degrees. The one parcel of good news in here is that there isn't a lot of humidity, so we could use that in terms of the wildfire situation, but it means there's not a heat index that you're really dealing with. What you see is what you feel. And so 29 degrees with that sunshine for tomorrow afternoon.
Thanks, Colette. Still ahead, lineups at MPI offices early this morning as parents try to snag the few available driver Z training spots, some even waiting overnight. We'll have that story for you just ahead. 2 convicted human smugglers were sentenced to prison in the United States today for their role in a case that saw a family from India die while trying to cross the border from Manitoba into the U.S. in 2022. CBC's Caitlin Gowerluck was in court.
Steve Shand and Harsh Kumar Patel were handed lengthy prison sentences in Minnesota on Wednesday. 3 years after 2 parents and their 2 young children froze to death trying to walk across the international border from Manitoba. Shand, who lives in Florida, was sentenced to 6.5 years for his role as a driver. Patel, an Indian national arrested in Chicago last year, got over 10 years for coordinating the smuggling and hiring Shand. Their sentencings come more than 3 years after Jagdish and Vaishali Patel and their 2 kids, 11-year-old Vihangi and 3-year-old Dharmik, were found frozen in Manitoba a few meters from the U.S. border in January 2022. Acting U.S. Attorney Lisa Kirkpatrick said while the sentences handed down were lower than what prosecutors asked for, she feels justice was served.
I'm a lifelong Minnesotan. I would not go out in this weather. But the defendants sent into that weather 11 migrants, Indian nationals who were not dressed appropriately, who were ill-prepared for the weather they faced that night.
Shand was arrested near the border around the same time with other Indian nationals in the van he was driving. Prosecutors had asked he get over 10 years in prison, saying he knew how dangerous the cold weather could be and kept going back. The defense asked for a sentence of just over 2 years, saying Shand made a bad decision because he needed to support his family. Harsh Kumar Patel, no relation to the Patel family, was arrested in Chicago last year. For him, prosecutors wanted a prison sentence of more than 19 years, arguing he's never shown remorse for his actions and continues to deny his involvement.
These defendants knew it was cold. In fact, they knew it was life-threateningly cold, but they didn't care. What they cared about was money, and their callous indifference to the value of human life cost a family of 4 their lives.
Meanwhile, Patel's lawyer says his client is disappointed with his sentence. Court heard he will likely be deported back to India after he gets out.
He had kind of resigned himself to the fact that the sentence would be longer than he had hoped. And he's not happy with it, but he does wish to appeal and, take advantage of his rights there.
Shand's lawyer declined to comment. Shand walked out of the courthouse with his lawyers after being sentenced and will be taken into custody at a later date. U.S. officials say they hope these sentences send a strong message and prevent tragedies like this from happening again. Caitlin Gowerluck, CBC News, Fergus Falls, Minnesota.
There were hours-long lineups at some MPI offices this morning. It comes amid high demand for the provincial driver's ed program and a condensed version of that class that is being offered this summer. And in some parts of the province, people even lined up overnight for one of those spots. Matt Humphrey has more.
These people aren't lined up for concert tickets. They want to learn to drive. And Elsweety Bawa wasn't taking any chances.
She told us to come at 6:30, so I came a bit earlier, just in case.
The 15-year-old was one of hundreds of Manitoban teenagers trying to register for driver's ed. But with fewer than 600 spots, demand is high. Elsweety managed to get a spot, but her father is frustrated.
I feel the MPI should be able to have been able to work it in such a way that people will not have to stress to be able to get into driver's ed. I don't think it should be this difficult. No, it will discourage others for sure.
MPI is offering a 5-week version of its regular 12-week course, and the auto insurer almost doubled the number of class spots this year. People register over the phone or in person if they're an MPI customer. Tara Seal is MPI's spokesperson.
I understand that there were, people trying to register through the contact center that got busy signals for a while too. It's high demand, right?
In Brandon, 15-year-old Ty Aldcroft and his friends lined up for 13 hours.
Camping out all night. I don't know. I just feel like they could do a better job.
After camping out all night with her son, Lindsay Dietrich thinks more instructors could expand the program further.
Probably more spots. I think that's the thing right now. But my understanding is we just have the same instructor that we've had for years. I believe his wife is teaching it now too, but I just don't think there's any replacements.
Seal says MPI hired 29 driving instructors recently, ahead of the season. And she says instructors work long hours, so it could deter people from signing up for the job. MPI says all class spots were filled by 11 Wednesday. 83% of the people who stood in line at Bison Drive didn't get a spot. Matt Humphrey, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, tickets are now available for one of Manitoba's premier cultural festivals. Folklorama is back for its 54th year, taking place August 3rd through 16th, featuring 44 pavilions. These include two new ones, the Mabuhay Philippine Pavilion and the Modern Chinese Pavilion. The festival also welcomes back Argentina, Métis, and African pavilions this year. A kickoff takes place at Assiniboine Park's Lyric Theatre and Field on July the 26th. All right, let's get a check on our forecast now and bring back meteorologist Colette Kennedy.
Thanks, Riley. Well, earlier in the show, I focused a lot on the temperature trends. So don't worry, I'll do a recap if you happen to miss that. But I want to talk about the air quality and what the winds and, hey, when are we going to get some rainfall coming our way? And we'll delve a little bit deeper into that. The air quality alert, and not a surprise here to see that area expanded, of course, with the problems near Flin Flon with the fire jumping the border. So wildfire situation there means the air quality into an alert, and still that alert as well for southeastern parts of the province. And just checking out the winds, you know, this northwesterly flow in Lynn Lake, maybe a little bit of a reprieve with the air quality at the surface, so that is good to see. But elsewhere, really, we're not getting it. It's just kind of when you've got the wildfires so close, those winds circling around, if anything, it makes things more challenging. And so watch what happens here with the surface smoke. We have seen some diffusement elsewhere, but this is going to sort of float around. You notice Lynn Lake doing a little bit better, but it's still in that vicinity and, in fact, kind of blowing up towards Flin Flon as we're moving through the day tomorrow. Perhaps into Friday, could see some subtle changes there with some help. In terms of precipitation, yes, a few little showers. Don't like to see that lightning strike in there. Most of them really hugging very close to the border and not giving us any measurable or significant precipitation. Well, we won't be seeing that for several days, but it is going to come. You know it's going to come. But this ridge of high pressure that is in place, so strong, the dominant feature giving us this heat dome well up into Northwest Territories. Now, watch what kind of happens as we move through Thursday into Friday. There is going to be some moisture along this frontal boundary, but look what happens there. Yeah, as we move towards Friday, this actually begins to dry out and disappear to some extent and not having an impact moving into Manitoba. And so we'll have to wait another couple of days after that. You'll have to wait for the 7-day forecast for me to get into that next best chance for rain. But look out tomorrow, 29, perhaps close to 30. We could get there for that daytime high, 30 on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, little dip there, not that significant, but then the temperatures right back up as we go Sunday into Monday. But again, most of these numbers that you're seeing, Riley, it's unfortunate we could use some higher humidity, but most of these numbers, it means what you see is what you feel in terms of any kind of a humidex.
All right, thank you so much, Colette. All right, we're taking another break. We have much more to come right after this. Stay with us.